call this series on biblical womanhood Coffee and a Chat. Ooh, look at that steam. We will have coffee and we will talk about what it means to be a woman after God. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to jump into some scripture study, so let's get started. Today I really wanted to start the conversation about biblical womanhood. This has been something I've really dived into over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, at least for diving into it deeper. Me and Andrew have been married for 2.5 years. It'll be 3 years in September. And that really sparked me studying in scripture, in the Bible, what my role in our marriage is, what my role as his wife is, and what my role will be as a mom. And just as a woman trying to follow God, what does that look like? What does that mean? And how can I try to make sure I'm following that to the best of my abilities? So what I wanted to start with was the most controversial scripture on this probably ever, Proverbs 31. So I have my coffee as usual, and I have my ESV study Bible. I really love the ESV translation, and I really love my study Bible because it has the notes on the second half of the page, and I just love that. I think it's super helpful. I've learned a ton through that, and especially when you're starting out and trying to figure out what to start with and kind of have a little help interpreting, it can be really nice. I wouldn't lean too heavily on it, but it can be helpful at times. So I love my study Bible. Just as a start, the book of Proverbs is seen as a book of wisdom, of wise sayings, of advice for how to live wisely rather than foolishly, and you see that contrasted a lot throughout Proverbs, the foolish and the wise. So like Proverbs 28:18 says, whoever walks in integrity will be delivered, but he who is crooked in his ways will suddenly fall. So it's just really practical, little pithy, wise sayings that have advice that sometimes directly can seemingly apply, other times not so directly, and you might need to interpret a little bit to apply it to what you're doing at that moment or what's going on in your life at that moment. But it's overall seen as a book of wisdom. So Proverbs 31 is not, as it's usually, I don't want to say heralded, but it gets pushed or has been pushed in the past as directive for how a wife and a woman should act. And that, mixed with some of the scripture in Ephesians, can get dangerously used and abused at times. However, Proverbs 31 is really, if you look into it, it says the words of King Lemuel, an oracle that his mother taught him. So it's a mom talking to her son, saying, look for these traits in a wife. Look for these characteristics and value these characteristics in the women you are considering for possibly your future wife. And as a woman, this isn't so you have to do these things for me. It's more, this is someone to admire and look up to and appreciate the example. Not that I'm failing miserably if I don't live up to it, but that it is a very good example of somebody living out a godly, womanly walk with God. It is an amazing example of a woman walking closely with God in every aspect of her life and trying to achieve that. It does give highlights rather than showing the ways she's imperfect. But again, I think it's more about an example and advice and encouragement rather than you must do these things and every woman is going to be the same like this. I think that's making it too black and white to generalize in that way. So to start, it titles the section about the Proverbs 31 woman with the woman who fears the Lord. And I think just that can say a lot. I think there is a ton that can be gleaned just from the idea of a woman being called to fear the Lord, just like a man is called to fear the Lord.